All right. Welcome to the very first InstructLab Documentation Working Group meeting. Just a few reminders before we start. If you have attended one of our other meetings, you know that already, but I'll go ahead and do that anyway. All our meetings are governed by the InstructLab Community Code of Conduct, and we record our meetings and we'll post them to the InstructLab YouTube channel. If you prefer not to be on camera, you can join with the cameras off and raise your hand to ask questions or use the chat, the usual stuff. And if you have any questions, feel free to raise them at any point with the raise hand function or use the chat function. All right, let's get started. And I think there's a lot more experts in this team on docs than myself, so I'll open it up to one of you to maybe Cedric, you post a question so we can get discussion on that first. The question that you just mentioned.
Yeah, I also added it here at the bottom of the notes. Okay. But one of the things I think, in addition to documentation, is how do new developers and new engineers get started with InstructLab beyond just the basics and straight documentation. So getting started, tutorials, guides, there's a learning path, I think, on Red Hat Developer already. So how do we take all that really good knowledge and examples and use cases that will inspire other people and format them in a place that's accessible? Is it docs.instructlab or maybe somewhere else? And we're also building, we talked about this on the community call yesterday, like a lab. So people have a VM to be able to try out InstructLab with the scenario from Red Hat Summit this year. So all of this cool information, I'm thinking about where we should put it. Open to ideas.
There is already the getting started stuff on docs.instructlab.ai. Are you referring to something similar to that, or additionally more other tutorials?
So other more specialized tutorials. I've used the getting started with, and I think it's a good example. And we have those, from the taxonomy, that example with the Phoenix constellations. And I think kind of building onto that, more use cases and examples.
So examples and also cases or something like that.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
Examples of actual, like some use cases that it's more clear what you're doing than just running a command.
Yeah, use cases. And you know what? This brings me to this like big idea of like the learning center. Like you open up Podman Desktop or Docker Desktop and you have the learning center and the tutorials of these different examples that help you learn about, for our example, SDG, or how the training works, or what's fine tuning. So I used to work at MongoDB, and we had the Learning Center and this like MongoDB University where you could learn about all of the different technologies and integrations and stuff with, say, databases. And I think some type of Learning Center for InstructLab could be cool.
Okay. I know JJ has opinions. I would love to hear them. Although I would like to also, I think we might be kind of jumping ahead of what we want to do, because I think in the first place, it's my fault. I maybe shouldn't have started with this topic, even though it was the thing we started with. But like, what's the goal of this thing? Like, right, we want to improve. No, it's not your fault, Cedric. It's my fault. But whether we want to, how do we want to structure docs in the first place, and how it relates to all the different repos that we have in the different repos under InstructLab org on GitHub, like some of the readmes I've listed, and there's a lot more than that, I know. So let's talk about that in a more higher level before we kind of go into the details of tutorials and guides and workshops and things like that. So please, JJ, I'll hand it over to you now.
Yeah, let me give a little history. So this is recorded too, so we can kind of know where we've come from here. Okay, so back a long time ago, back in February, We had a bunch of readmes that people were trying, that were coming from engineering, that were straightforward and able to, for people to grasp this relatively quickly. We quickly grew to the point where they were, one of the words I heard were unwieldy, where there were so many different spurs off of the different readmes that people would just get lost. They wouldn't understand what was happening. And I believe this was a Red Hat Summit. Jeremy Eaters asked for a getting started guide that we could put in front of people at Red Hat Summit so they could at least know the actual steps to install stuff. I got tasked with that, and I was able to figure out how to get that done. And that is that getting started guide that Cedric had mentioned inside of the docs. And it's kind of grown over there. Fast forward up until whenever I created docs.instructlab.ai, because I realized that the readmes were just getting more unwieldy. And I had people inside of IBM asking for, JJ, what the hell is going on? Where is all this information I need? And I quickly identified that we needed 3 buckets. One, the brochure of InstructLab that you put in front of your boss to say, hey, isn't this cool? And that's instruct-lab.ai, right? With all pretty marketing stuff, scroll through the thing. By the way, we need to put an arrow or something on that so you know to scroll down, because very few people realize you have to actually scroll down on the website, as I've learned. And then 2, another bucket of where the, if you will, the end users of InstructLab are, right? The people who actually don't want to know the nuts and bolts. They want to use the system, or they want to be part of the community. And that's where, in my mind, docs.instructlab.ai was, which is the reason why, if you bring it up, Carol, I chose the Markdown site for it, because it's easy for people to add things to, it's easy to iterate on, and it's all automated inside of GitHub, that it could be, in essence, a living wiki, if you will, that we just hit a merge button and all of a sudden everything shows up. And then the third bucket is where our wonderful engineering team is doing all that crazy stuff with Python, and they need the nuts and bolts readmes that need to iterate quickly on the changes that they are doing, right? Where what you need to know what all the different flags are for the commands and things like that, in my mind, lives on the README, because that stuff can change between release, especially with how often our releases are. So that was kind of my overarching decision path that I went down, and I just kind of took the READMEs and just shoved them in there. And then my ultimate goal, which is I think the whole reason why we're coming together here, is that, to Carol's point about the other READMEs, we can probably collapse them all down and point them, like the community READMEs shouldn't really exist anymore, right? Because they should be on docs.instructlab.ai. So that was my idea, was to kind of collapse it down to a book. Go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, I want to say something. And I think one other part to the third bucket you talked about was that I know we'd like to popularize our SDG and training libraries to data science communities, and even being able to offer like documentation at the class level for other people to like be able to use the libraries, make it easy to use those libraries, is something that the people that were the creators of those repos, for example, really care about.
Yes, so kind of also going off of that, and then similar with what JJ was saying, I completely agree, where a big tricky part is like for anything is like target audience, where like going through sort of the general InstructLab workflow, I personally think would make sense to put on the docs website, and then consolidate those READMEs definitely, and then stuff with like APIs and like the flags and CLI specific stuff can go in the InstructLab, like their respective READMEs, and like some of those more really technical stuff. The only tricky part is a lot of the workflow is still being like tweaked and like trying to fix to just try and enhance the UX, like make the UX just better. So a lot of the very just core workflow keeps changing, which is why I shouldn't say change. It's like being adjusted, but just like for better UX. So that's part of the tricky part, because I think I definitely agree. Once we have maybe like simple workflow or something, we get that down, and then we can document it. And similarly with like what Ali and JJ were saying, use the repositories as more of like, if you want more, maybe, but like something like JJ was saying for the, like the CLI flags and everything specific there. And then same thing with Ali, like there's a whole bunch of training flags, training arguments that they have documented in the training library. That's something that I'm not even sure like would need to be on the docs page, because if you look at the training library, there's like a whole chart that I help them make to make those arguments, which is really good for someone using training specifically. And that's another thing that I'm trying to gauge if that would be something necessary on the docs page. But I think those like determining that, I think just needs to be discussed. Yes.
Would
And,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, if we're capturing decisions and or thoughts as we're kind of building this up, one of the biggest friction points, I guess, is that the choice of software I used, MKDocs material, isn't a direct correlation for GitHub Markdown. So there is a level of I tried to find the closest thing that was the easiest thing to do, right? Like it got the lion's share of everything, but there's still like call out boxes and things like that that don't fully translate over, that you have to edit. I know that was one of the concerns the engineering team had, because there's no way to just like copy pasta or just create a script that, you know, scrapes the README and dumps it into a Markdown, into the MKDocs material site. So we will either need to write some tooling around it that just basically does a major sed across a bunch of Markdowns or something, or we just need to be okay with some broken callouts inside of it for the time being. I'm all about iteration, so I'm okay with broken shit, right? And then we can come back and fix it another time. But I do want to make sure that was captured in this conversation too.
Yeah, that was definitely like a huge thing. I know something that we were thinking was like this. I think this is a temporary solution, because I personally think we should, like with what JJ was saying, kind of strip some of like the core InstructLab workflow and have it on the docs page, and strip some of the READMEs so that it just points to that. That's my thoughts on how we should do it. But with that, and like what JJ was saying with like the scripting, the other tricky part with that is the formatting doesn't always match, and you it's hard to like get creative a little bit if it's just like a script sync. And I like when websites look pretty. I think it helps, and it like helps with like some and even like with the writing itself, if it's just like copied over, it might not be like great. And part of a possible solution, like I said, temporary solution, is like maybe if some markdown or even the README in either InstructLab, taxonomy, or whatever, if anything there gets updated in like a PR, maybe it would like ping the, like, I don't know, the docs page maintainers, which we don't have right now, but I think that's something we should have. Like whenever there's an update, it'll ping the the maintainers so that they know to change it, or if we collaborate with the engineers, they could know to update it. But I think there will have to be some kind of documentation maintainers for that repo, just like all of the other repos, that it'll be like that. Yeah. I will volunteer as one maintainer because this is something I've been meaning to do for a bit, other than like the Relay app stuff. Yeah.
Any other volunteers?
Was I just voluntold to do that? Son of
Yes. Well, you created the repo.
All right, fine.
I'll remove you if you want. No, I think
I think one of our team was supposed to be
Yeah.
one of those people too.
are you volunteering? Taylor, or
No, I think it like Cedric and Legree. Are you okay being on there?
Yes, I'm okay being wherever you want me to be.
Love the energy.
Shoot. You could throw me on there as well.
And actually, I think JJ, you probably have the rights to add the maintainers. So
Yeah, I'll take care of it.
thank you.
I think this is a great start. I know as of like, I think last week, I've made a couple PRs to try to update the page to match like some of the new workflow stuff. And I'm not sure if this will be more like, Carol, if you think this conversation might be more suitable in like the community call where we determine like if we want to do a scripting, if we want to do just move it and that's it.
I think this call, I mean, because I think the people with the knowledge and the expertise are here. And of course, we can come up with the proposal and ask on the community call or the wider community if anybody has any feedback. But I think this group should kind of propose something first instead of just, open, hey, what do you think, without any kind of things for people to work on. Yes, JJ.
So I think if how much time do we have? We only 9 minutes left, or is this an hour?
I think it's an hour. I put an hour, so.
Okay, I was time means nothing. So I think if we can all agree in this quorum, if you bring up docs.instructlab.ai for right now, Carol, if you don't mind, I think what we could do is, you see that the left side right there. I think if we all agree on those sections and then start working asynchronously to fill out the sections a little bit better, like the top level sections. And then if we, for instance, the community side, the code of conduct, right? We should have it here, and then we should update the community website or community GitHub to point here, right? And if we make that and we just start churning through that asynchronously, and if we agree all of this here, then we can show the community call that we are moving forward with this. And if we have a quorum of agreements here of all these people, then we can show value, and then they know that we're serious about making this happen. Does that seem reasonable?
Yep.
Yes. I can start adding, yeah, because I've made a couple PRs already to just try and, like I said, update, and I have some proposal with organizational stuff and like topic map stuff. I'm very, very open to feedback. And then I'll start like making some, not write-ups, or just like messaging in the docs channel upstream, the upstream docs Slack channel, just to like communicate it better. I'll start doing that as well, or we'll start doing that.
And then maybe have owners for each of these sections. So because it's definitely not a one person's job, right? So for example, I can help with the community section. So yeah. Anybody would like to volunteer instead of being voluntold?
I was going to say, like, I can try to think about what the structure should be for kind of the third bucket. That's like how to use the InstructLab CLI and for other developers wanting to use the libraries.
Mhm. Oh,
I guess put me down for taxonomy for obvious reasons.
Thank you.
And I guess, but also, I want to volunteer Cedric to do the getting started, because I know that you iterate on that so regularly that I think it would be good for you to bring that expertise there.
That sounds good. Yeah, I was either going to say getting started or user interface, but that sounds good.
And thanks, Dominic,
Dominic,
yeah, volunteering for user interface for sure.
CMB is me too.
I'll volunteer for like the adding data to a model. Like I said, I think I have some ideas with these sections. And like I'm also just I love to peer review, so I'm happy to help with any of the sections as well.
Yeah, I'm happy to help with anyone's as well. I'll also be out for like a month and a half. My exams are starting in like early December, and then I won't be back until late January. So I can do whatever now and then whatever when I get back.
Can I add you to getting started?
Yeah, please do.
Awesome. That'll be fun.
Could someone add a bullet that's like CLI reference and put my name by it?
I'm also thinking if we want to do like, this is an idea, if we want to do like developer tools or developer like guide, but that is something that might make more sense in the respective InstructLab readmes, which is fine.
Does
So
that fit in contributions? Are you talking about like contributions, or are you talking about just like general developer hacking guides?
I think it's more with contributions. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, more contributions. I think that would actually, I take it back. That makes more sense to go in the readmes. Never mind.
No worries. That's why we're discussing this. So
one quick thing. Oh, sorry, Carol.
no, it's okay.
Got
Just asking about the CLI references, because currently I think the getting started has a lot covered. So it'll be actually not a lot covered, but here probably. So in addition to this, it's more like a detailed CLI reference. Should we have an additional section for that?
Yeah, I think like the things that, I mean, so I'd want to like start with a blank slate and like ask around and ask what should be documented, but 2 to 3 like things where it should be able to bake some kind of automation in are documenting all the flags for the commands and what they're for, documenting all the variables for the configuration. I've got a fun configuration dev doc overhaul that everyone's going to love coming out in the next 24 hours. And then the third one is the third one's even deeper, but like actually if there's something that like pulled all the doc strings from all the functions and classes, and like if we could build automation to like say like certain thing, like this is the training class and it's got these functions in it, like this is what they do for other developers that might want to use our libraries.
CLI references, that's something we can automate. I've done it before, but it's been like 2 years, so I don't remember how, but I can figure it out again. Because it's all in the code itself, and it's usually already auto-generated in the CLI directly, so figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I that's like something I'm really interested in doing. And the other thing is I want to be able to make it so that people are editing docs when they make PRs too. so that like some of that docs burden can be on the people making the features.
Sounds good. And how would this differentiate between, because I know the README in InstructLab/InstructLab is currently a lot about the CLI stuff. So it'll be complementary to that.
Yeah, or like the way I thought about it, and like this is kind of where like I think Cedric, and I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Is it Laguerre?
Legree.
Like I was hoping that like the README could be something more of like a quick start to like get people up and using it really quickly, and if they want to dive deeper, like we shouldn't have to worry about an unwieldy README. It should just be something that gets the user from like somewhat productive as quickly as we can.
+1.
+2.
Yeah.
Yep. I 100% agree. All about the user experience of like, oh, I found this project on GitHub.
Who's the best person for Cedric and Legree to work with to, because it does just, it's hairy between what computer you're using and what hardware you have. And it's hard to avoid that looking confusing. What's like a good point of contact from engineering to help clarify all of that for installation?
You can talk to me and Charlie.
Okay.
We need a point of contact.
Sorry, I missed who said that.
Oh, sorry.
Kelly, sorry, yeah.
I also plan a lot of things, on making a troubleshooting guide. I want to do that so bad for Taylor's exact reasons, but I hear you, like the direct stuff. I
think actually, like, because I've talked to at least Legree about that a couple of times. I think, can we add a line, even if it's not on, if I don't know if it should live on this site or not, but I think our team should absolutely be helping with the troubleshooting guide. And I'd like to volunteer Cedric and Legree to also work on that, because that's a big, which obviously will be contributed by others as well. But if we can lead that, that would be helpful. And would help you.
No module found, Torch. No module found.
Yeah.
Anything with CUDA.
Yeah.
Burn it.
So I'm wondering, once we kind of define these categories and areas that we want to maintain or to add or to improve, my OCD brain wants to organize it a little bit. But once we get to that point, and then I want to kind of share some other examples of open source projects, that documentation sites that could serve as a reference, because I have a quick idea, but that's once we finish this part, so no rush.
And feel free to drop links to the doc and also to the Slack channel where we will gather to discuss this.
Yeah,
cool.
To like, when we say finish this part, like, is the idea for the next meeting that each of us would like come with some ideas of what their section would look like, and we kind of agree on like putting them all together or something like that? It seems like there's already a lot here. I'm not sure like what the very immediate next step is. And maybe JJ, you had like an idea.
I just want to be able to point IBMers to something that makes sense to them.
I personally think we don't necessarily have to like stay on this specific structure. I think that like part of this was more just like getting like an SME per like the subject of the section. Carol, is that, or I forget who said it. I think it was either JJ or Carol. Is that right? Because I think we can probably iterate on like this type of topic maps, just like as time goes on. But I think part of it was just getting some general SMEs for these specific subjects. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, and owners. So we have ownership of this. So yeah, we're not saying that, hey, somebody in the team does it, but we actually have people who are responsible. Yes. So.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense, because I do think sometimes like I mean, with a lot of feedback and stuff, and especially user-facing things, like there'll be iteration, and the line between like consistency and then like iteration. But I just wanted to clarify. That makes sense.
Yeah. And doesn't mean that this person have to do everything, but
Yeah.
it's just having somebody who oversees these certain parts, and of course get help from other places and other people in the community when as needed. But yeah, I think it will be good to have some concrete next steps so that we can start moving some things forward. We don't have to, of course, to have the whole plan worked out right now, but what do you think are some of the things we can already start doing?
I think we should collapse down some of the other orgs or the other repos documentation and really take and point directly to like migration, right?
Okay.
Just the first thing we need to do is in the different spaces that you're responsible for, look through those GitHub repos, figure out where you can migrate it and migrate that shit. Right? Don't like, oh, I should do this. No, take the initiative, do it, and then change the PR to point to the docs site. And also that gives you an opportunity to learn how to set up the docs site on your local box to see it actually work. So it forces you to go through the iteration process and then send the link up to the docs Slack channel, and we'll just merge them. And then we'll iterate from there. Like the best thing to do, the Texan enemy is about to talk, but take that bull by the horns, right? And run with it. So, yeah.
Sounds good.
Definitely, like I said, I'll send these out later today, but definitely just update everything so it's up to date first, and then kind of consolidate like where we can. Like even like Ali and I were saying, like not every single eval output needs to be in the README, which we've half consolidated, but even still. And then try to like we said, point to it and like get it in a good spot and ensure everything's consistent.
Sounds good. And is this 2-week cadence for meetings reasonable? And for the in between meetings, we just discuss things in the Slack channel, the stocks Slack channel. Sounds good. All right. Anything else before we adjourn?
To be on the hook. I'm asking Julia if she wants to be on the hook for anything.
I definitely can help. I'm obviously transitioning off at some point, but I'm still trying to even like with new things starting, still being present, because that is something I'll be passing over to any people we hire. So, and I have no idea when that's going to happen. It could be a couple days, it could be a couple weeks. I really hope it's not a couple months. So, and yeah, until I go poof, put me to work.
I'll put you as somebody who can help generally to, review PRs and take a look at what we're doing. So
Yeah,
thank
absolutely.
you.
I have a pretty strong grammar background, so I can help with some editing. I was raised by 2 English majors.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. On that note, I wanted to thank Callie for adding the link to the instruct-lab.ai domain site recently, as well as Dominic for adding the UI tutorial to the doc site. Good stuff. Okay, we have some path forward to work on, and let's continue the discussion on Slack, and we'll meet again in 2 weeks to see our progress. Thank you, everyone. Cheers.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers.